Ciao a tutti ragazzi, eccoci qua con un nuovo video oggi, location super, siamo a Yale, quindi New Haven, vicino a New York. Oggi incontreremo Andre, un mio amico che è venuto qui a studiare Yale dall'Italia, insomma parleremo anche un po' di imprenditoria, cultura startup e dropout negli Stati Uniti. Ciao Andre, come stai?
Ciao ragazzi, tutto bene?
Quindi Andre, oggi siamo qui nella parte dedicata un po' ai progetti personali, alle startup, una di queste facility, giusto? Spiegaci un attimo quello che vedremo adesso.
Andrea diceva, ogni campus qui in US, con molti di quelle che chiamiamo facilities, possono essere spazi ricreativi, come palestre, campi da calcio, campi da tennis, oppure quelli che chiamiamo residential colleges, dove gli studenti dormono, mangiano, si incontrano, studiano, ci sono biblioteche e ci sono anche, ecco, degli spazi dedicati a progetti specifici. Ad esempio, qui dietro di noi vedremo quello che si chiama Tsai City, ecco, la città di Tsai, e prende il nome da Joe Tsai, che ha donato questo centro per gli studenti di Yale per farli incontrare, per coltivare le loro idee di startup. Qui in America c'è una cultura imprenditoriale che è un po' più importante di quella che abbiamo noi in Italia.
Allora ragazzi, adesso entreremo in questo building e incontreremo i co-founder di Andrea, Sam e Aria. Questo perché Andre è venuto qua con alcuni piani in testa e hedge fund, giusto Andrea?
Sì. Ecco,
spiegaci magari te un po' com'è andata questo switch.
Avendo studiato economics, quindi economia pura, diciamo, sempre stato interessato a ambiti con macroeconomici, quindi indeciso se continuare a fare ricerca specialmente in macrofinance, avevo alcune offer da università come Stanford per continuare a fare ricerca, oppure andare a lavorare in global macro hedge fund, per cui anche avevo offer che mi sono guadagnato una volta, ecco, essere venuto qui a studiare a Yale, ma come Andrea stava appena accennando, adesso sono appena embarked on a new project più imprenditoriale, quindi adesso sto decidendo cosa fare per il mio prossimo futuro e ho queste diverse cose in mente, tra cui ecco startup, hedge fund, per cui sto decidendo adesso, ma felice di farvi vedere oggi com'è la realtà imprenditoriale di università come Yale.
Andiamo a incontrare i tuoi co-founder ora, Andrea.
Esatto,
Adesso dove stiamo entrando qui?
Andremo ad incontrare i miei co-founder, stiamo entrando nel Tsai City, che abbiamo organizzato una piccola conferenza a tema blockchain, del quale ecco, le conferenze sono organizzate dagli studenti, sono molte societies, clubs, molto più che in Italia. La conferenza sta finendo, ora andremo di sopra, dove abbiamo la nostra stanza, un po' il nostro headquarter.
Ok dai, andiamo a incontrare i tuoi
nostro
co-founder.
Ufficio.
Esatto, switchiamo in inglese adesso ragazzi, perché chiaramente si parla in inglese. Ragazzi, breve interruzione per dirvi che sono disponibili gli ultimi posti del terzo lancio di Polo, la mia piattaforma dove vi aiuto a capire qual è la carriera che fa per voi e quale master scegliere, e soprattutto c'è la possibilità di unirsi a una community di centinaia di studenti italiani con gli stessi vostri obiettivi di carriera. Link in descrizione, oppure trovate tutto su poloapp.it. Torniamo al video. So guys, the idea today is just like to get to know these super talented like Yale guys that decided to take risks. So they all came here majoring in a very tough subject like stats, computer science, and they could have pursued very high potential in terms of income careers in hedge funds, quant research, but they decide that they want to take a risk to pursue like a personal project, like a startup, together with Andrea. And you know, like in Italy, it's not that easy to see like people having this opportunity to study at such prestigious school, but deciding to put their career at risk. I feel like in US the culture is a bit different. So what do you think, like Sam, about this? Is that common? Like, how do you feel about having had this opportunity to go, I don't know, like to firms like Bridgewater, Jane Street, where you know multiple six figures, maybe seven figures in the early years of your career, but instead you're pursuing kind of like a personal project like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not an easy choice. You know, if you have offers from those top firms, it's not easy to just, you know, reject them and to pursue your passion full time. But I think, especially this early on, you get ideas like that very rarely. And, you know, you may not get an opportunity like this again. You may not get an opportunity to pursue something you really are passionate about later down the line. But right now, you have the idea. I think it's important to know when to take the risk and just do it. Just do it. You know, what's the worst that could happen? Doesn't work, you can try and do something else.
Yeah, and I feel like you can always come back to this career later.
Exactly,
on. Yeah. If you were smart enough to get into such a good school, I mean, the corporate option is always there, right?
Definitely.
So, and I'm also super interested, maybe Arya, you can help with this one. How in practice does it work from being with like a bunch of classmates and discuss an idea to actually kick off like a business? Like make it concrete and commit full time.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sam and I sort of had the idea for a business back in freshman year. It started from like a dorm room conversation really late at night. And after that, we sort of met weekly to discuss the idea at a very theoretical level. We maybe had some conversations with professors, but I think it was, one night in our, spring semester for sophomore year, we were just like, okay, if we're ever going to make this thing work, it can't be theoretical. It can't just be weekly meetings. We have to put our, all of our effort into it. And we decided, let's take a leave of absence starting next semester and work full time on it.
What is a leave of absence? Maybe.
So a leave of absence is sort of what universities call students who are not taking classes, but are still like enrolled in the university in the sense that they can, come back and take classes later on. So Yale's policies are set up in a way so that you can take 2 years of a leave of absence, and then you have to sort of officially withdraw, and at that point you have to reapply to get back in. So we're on our first year of leave of absence. I think some other universities, Harvard, MIT, you can be on an indefinite leave of absence. So that's a little bit better than Yale's policy, but it's definitely a very nice setup in terms of.
So you have this buffer, kind of like you can take on some risk and still be like a Yale student and leverage that.
Yeah,
definitely. And in terms of funding, like the company, like the legal entity, getting in touch with investors, do you feel like here in the US in this business school you get like a lot of support? Maybe professor gives you contact, or did you have to figure out everything on your own?
Honestly, I'm sure there is support. Like if we were to go ask professors, like how do we do this? Like they would probably give us answers. But in this day and age, everything's online. We were figuring everything out ourselves in terms of cold emailing investors, how to set up an entity. It's all there for the taking. So I think anyone can really do it if they put their mind to it and they have the internet.
Yeah. And also, like, I think also now is an interesting case because you mentioned that you are actually pursuing an hedge fund career. Like you have an internship signed, but at the same time you also have one of your business with your brother, right?
Yeah.
So how are you evaluating when is the point to go full time like these guys did, and when it's actually more smart to keep both things on the table?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not all startups are like created equal, insofar as like maybe not in the utility, but in the sort of sacrifices and the nature of the work you have to put in them for them to be successful. I mean, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of content that you can actually, or business that you can avail yourself of. I mean, there's a lot of Discord businesses you could do, and a lot of supply-side stuff as well, where you're ultimately selling a product that is tangible, and hardware stuff manufactured. That doesn't necessarily need a bunch of commitment from the get-go, precisely because there are structures and institutions set up for that to work.
Yeah.
But when you're working on an idea that is fundamentally revolutionary, there are a lot of barriers to entry because there's a lot of resistance, there's a lot of apprehensiveness on the part of customers and also investors, and those I think require a lot more commitment. And I think Sam once put it beautifully when he says instead of 100%, you do have to go 1,000% because those require a lot of commitment on your end. So I mean, the calculus for me has been not particularly difficult. Maybe it's because things are a bit early stage now, but I think it makes sense to kind of still work on the startup because it doesn't require a lot of investment on my end in terms of time, while simultaneously going for the hedge fund. But again, I think it depends on the money, right? At any given point, if we have raised a sufficient amount of capital or if we have a lot of revenue coming in, then I think that is a time to reevaluate.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Naum, for this take. And Andrea, I have a question specifically for you. You saw both of worlds, like being with this entrepreneurial drive in Italy, studying at Sant'Anna, which is still like, I feel like the Yale of Italy, kind of a super reputable school. And then you came here to the US. I'm quite sure you found some differences in the culture, especially of being an ambitious student that can go for the high status jobs, but wanted to found something entrepreneurial from scratch instead. Which differences did you find?
Absolutely, that's what I would say we've been talking about so far. The difference in culture. When I came here, I came from a background where in Italy, entrepreneurship is maybe not perceived as a career path that people can pursue after graduate studies, after undergrads. Instead, here there are lots of students that start to again pursue their entrepreneurial efforts and endeavors, like you have facilities and resources that can help you, but above all I think the difference exactly in the people, in the mindset that people have, something common here too. Again, you finish your studies, you have a choice, you can go on the most common career paths and they always depend on your studies before, but why not pursue something more entrepreneurial that is risky, but at the end of the day what I would say this to you guys, we had a very interesting conversation with a unicorn founder in the US. Unicorn is a startup that was valued more than $1 billion that told us, think about what's your risk. If things do not work out, you just come back doing what you were doing before, but you have an experience behind you that can give you a lot more in terms of, again, in understanding how the real world works when you have to funding something that the word was not used about. That's what really entrepreneurship is, or meeting people through which you can establish not only friend relationships but build a business together. And again, I think this is also one of the most interesting aspects of entrepreneurship. When you find a business partner, it's not only about your startup, it's about the strong relationship you can build with them. And sometimes what it happens is that these are circles. Like think about the PayPal network, all the guys that founded PayPal, and then they finish.
Mafia.
Exactly, and everyone starting doing their own things on their own, but the networks remains the same. So again, other things that I understood here is that you can be placed like here at Sci City. You do not only meet friends, you meet business partners, you meet people that again can be on your side for your
I feel
life
like
after studies that can help you funding new business or pursuing new ideas, and that's something that remains throughout your life, and it can be also helpful if you want to come back to your corporate life. That is also and always an option that you have and stays there. But when you're young, you have the chance to take those risks and think.
Yeah, I feel like when you get into this top business school, so you really kind of went through this hygiene criteria of being like a smart guy. You've been admitted. It's about having a choice in front of you where the downside is very little compared to the potential upside. And I feel like, especially at the early stage of your career, you should always take choices where the upside is proportionally way bigger than the downside. Because university is kind of the playground of your life. It's where you meet the most people. Then when you start working, life is kind of starts becoming more monotonous. You stop meeting as many new people as you used to meet in university. So you don't have this cross-network effect. You don't have like this support of... That's super cool. For example, these guys are building, the three of them, like a startup. Naum he has his own startup, but they still brainstorm together with the business of each other. So they contribute all together to the ideas that these guys are trying to build. Just because here in US, it's cool to have an idea and try to pioneer on it, like from scratch. And everybody's willing like to give a contribution from a different angles. And like these people are all super smart. There are people that study like anthropology, psychology, and they might have an edge on the marketing side. People that are quant, like CS, they might know which technology fits better for this type of projects. There are people more like with business acumen, like Andrea, that knows exactly how to pitch investors and how to onboard clients. And people are just like willing to help, I feel, for the sake of doing like something cool or contributing to create something that will eventually be cool. And they're not like kind of jealous of each other people's success. In Italy, we have this, unfortunately, I feel like.
Yes, I love to share this with you. That's something that I understood here. Founders love to help other founders. And not just because of getting something in return or in sake of something else, but just for the sake of help. Even if they're totally different fields, as we're doing with Naum, and something so cool that comes back to my speech before. And yes, and it's also something about culture. But when you have an entrepreneurial culture, these are things that are built upon that culture, but you have to build this culture from university level. That's why it's so important. I think if, again, we can pass on something of these messages to where we come from, which is our place, Italy.
So, a little more insight on that one is, I also think it is particularly helpful for founders, especially for B, and presumably for you guys as well, to kind of have insights that are perhaps informed by different startups. As in, a lot of the sort of problems that startups run into are not necessarily, yes, different in their own regard, but they're also very, very similar. As in, there's a lot of, a lot of logistical stuff, a lot of legal stuff, and a lot of like early business considerations that one has to go through. And I think having people together, maybe presumably in a different startup field, or even within the same startup ecosystem to weather it through, I think has been very, very helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe on a last note, I'm going to leave this up to you guys because it's your business, but do you want to just on a high level talk about what's your project? Maybe just give like a very high level of the idea in general.
So in terms of our project, we're still sort of operating in stealth mode, but what we can say is, we're a fintech startup sort of surrounding college students. So that's our target demographic. That's why it makes sense for us to be here on campus, and we're having a lot of fun. And yeah.
So, okay, guys, I tried to get a little bit of insights, but it's a secret recipe for success, what they're building, these guys. I'm glad that I got to know the idea. Hopefully, when you will be like at a later stage, we can make a video about it, or because what these guys are building is super cool, guys. And I've seen a lot of startup ideas. A lot of you reach me out asking, what do you think about this and that? I think actually what they're building is probably the coolest I've been hearing so far in the past 3 years. So super cool, guys. Maybe we will have another video later in the future.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So thank you guys for this session. I think this is helpful for many students that are deciding whether they should take the risk or not to pursue their dreams. So guys, see you in the next video. Remember to subscribe, leave a comment, and like. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.